Hello and welcome to SonicLAB. Today we're looking at the Pittsburgh Modular Microvolt 3900. This is a desktop analog modular synthesizer, and it is desktop. It's not like the SV1, which was essentially something that you could rack mount in your rack or not. This is purely desktop, and you can see here it's a little quite narrow, shallow depth. Similar form factor in some ways to the Zero Coast or No Coast, the Make Noise, but different in its own way. They describe it as a love letter to the analog synthesizer, and they've kind of tried to incorporate a number of features that they feel kind of make a synthesizer, and hence this kind of slightly hybrid. There's the core oscillator, single oscillator with multiple waves, wave shaping on one of the faders, which is actually more like a complex oscillator, more your sort of West Coast kind of vibe. There's this VCF as well, which has a high resonance mode, which sends it into all sorts of crazy resonances. We've got a dynamic VCA. This is a dual VCA, which works in low pass gate mode as well as in regular VCA mode with dynamics. Single ADSR, function generator, which can be either an envelope, a kind of attack decay envelope, or a looping cycling kind of LFO, plus there's an LFO with a random generator. We've also got an arpeggiator and octave buttons on the front panel, which is kind of cool, and a 39-point patch bay, which has got lots and lots of points of reference to go in. So like I say, this is kind of designed to be a standalone instrument. It has a lot of features. So let's take a listen to the raw waves. Before we start, should point out it comes with one of these MIDI adapter cables, which is you plug your MIDI in and it comes into the MIDI jack here. So you get pitch, gate and the modulation wheel output as well, so you can patch that. Also comes with, I think it's 4 of these quite nice rubberized patch cables, so you can start patching right away. But you don't need to, because it is actually quite a sort of pre-routed synthesizer as well. So we'll start with sine wave. As you can see on the screen here, I've got the scope up. I should also point out before I do that, what I've done is, the way that this works is the faders bring up the level into the VCA, but I've got a splitter coming out because if you take the patch output, it takes it out of the output. So I'm splitting out and just going straight into the VCF, which is set to 0 resonance. So nice shape. Plenty of low fundamentals there. Oh yeah, go right down, you can see that's sort of off the scale. 30 hertz here is there, so the fundamental is very low. But there's also the ability to switch in this harmonic mode, which adds a little bit more. It sort of changes the shape of the waveform somewhat, which you can see here. Just adds a bit of harmony. It seems sort of round squares off the bottom, but it gives it a little bit more sort of weight and extra girth, I suppose. So it's a nice feature. We'll come into the sawtooth now. Again, really nice clean shape. And it's got that good sort of solid core oscillator sound that Pittsburgh are very well known for. We'll come to pulse width now. We can vary the shape of the pulse width, and again, nice low fundamental. If we bring the LFO rate up here on the side, and then we can go through 0 just by adjusting the range and the mod depth as well. And finally, if we come into the wave folder, we've got some really interesting wave. Starts out as a sort of a sine, and then gradually goes through this crazy complex stuff. And again, we can modulate that. And it's quite a fruity sound, shall we say, and all of these seem to have plenty of sub and weight to them, so don't worry about not having enough bottom end. Right, so let's get on to the filter. I'm going to take a sawtooth directly in, just a quick sweep. half resonance, full resonance. Start to get that nice kind of chewy sound. But then you extend the resonance by pressing this button here, so it gets even more resonant. Might have to drop that. But then this sort of inverts, so we bring this down a bit, and it starts to get more resonant, the sort of more further down it goes, so it sort of inverts it in a sort of strange way. And then what we can do is create these kind of zappy via the function generator, or create the LFO there. If we want to add some more drive, we've got this additional feature here. We can get some really kind of enhanced distortion. Gets really sort of throaty. Try that on a some really quite pleasant harmonics there, and that's with the extended resonance. So then we get into the VCA mode, and the VCA is an interesting one because it's got this kind of dual path. It's got a dual function as well as being a regular VCA. So we dial in the envelope, which is normalized. Take the distortion down. We've also got the ability to bring in low pass gate mode. So pressing that button here, and bring this it kind of opens and closes down the harmonics. In low pass gate mode, traditionally, as the decay happens, it sort of closes down those harmonics a little bit, and you're getting that with this. Not the same as if we just did a VCA. So we take that out and we just bring the VCA and try and replicate. You hear that's very different to that. It's kind of almost like a VCF envelope, but there is no VCF envelope happening on this. So it's just adds that extra bit of flexibility there. And then if we want even more pluck, we can press the pluck mode, and it's great when you combine it with a sequence. You can get this really nice. Unfortunately, this is not modulatable. It'd be great because if we add extra drive, because we got this beautiful drive, we can get. So now if I bring in the wave folder out and come into the VCA input, we've now got the ability to fade this wave, bypassing the filter and coming directly into this. Anyway, I really like that feature, and the low pass gate adds a bit of extra flavour. It's just a shame we can't modulate that low pass gate decay, because some of those really do a really fast sequence and you get this kind of real modulating that is actually quite a nice sound. So it's a shame we didn't see that on the patch bay. So in this patch, what I've got is I've just got a blend of all the waveforms. I'm adding that kind of harmonics sine wave in there. And get some really nice, wow, that's got loads of bottom end, and there's lots of little sweet spots in there. Seems like it's very good at percussive sounds to me, rather than sort of big floaty leads and that side of things. Although you can do that kind of thing, but it does benefit from a bit of effects. And I'm trying to keep this dry just for the purposes of this review. So I've set up a more complex patch here, and I'm running the pulse width wave via the patch bay directly into the low pass gate. So I'll play my sequence. So it's acting a bit like a VCF. So now I've also just got the function generator running the dynamics. And what I've got here is I've patched the mod output into the mod input of the function generator. So I can sort of modulate the speed. I also can show you how this goes in terms of cycle. And it goes quite high up into the audio rates. Go back to low pass gate mode. Can combine the two. Now what I've also done is I've taken the CV output here, which is coming from the MIDI, and I'm going into this little mixer here, which is basically 2 in, 2 out. And I can affect the level of in A in a positive and negative factor. So it actually gives me a little bit of scope. But what I'm doing here is I'm running this, and I'm coming out of here and into the VCF frequency. If I switch the mod on and turn the input balance across, so we're just hearing the filter. So I'm trying to track in self-resonant mode the filter, and it's actually really difficult. There's no sort of 100% key tracking. It's very much trial and error, and I haven't really got it right, but it means I can blend kind of effectively 2 separate pitches, and it sort of makes up, well, it doesn't really, but what I was trying to do effectively is get 2 separate pitches out of a single oscillator sound, because obviously this has only got 1 oscillator, which does mean that you are a little bit limited in terms of what you can do from that front. So anyway, back to this. Let's press play. It's quite nice when you start adding distortion and getting the blend right. So you can get a little bit of stuff going on there. I've taken the sweep out of there. If I take the, oops, I'm in cycle mode. If I take the resonance out, the other thing that I've done is I've taken the sine wave out and I've come into the external input here. And that's to give you a sense of what happens in terms of gain. So that would be my standard sine wave, but I can add all this extra gain to the signal. Again, add some extra drive there. That sine wave sort of becomes like a square, and it's thunderous. It's got that real, oh yeah, I mean that's really sort of blatty and fat, and I'm using the filter a little bit there. So anyway, back to the patch. So what I was doing is I wanted to show you also the LFO. So in this patch, if I go back to this and I'm using the LFO to modulate the square wave. But if I take the square wave out and come back to my sine level, I'll show you just how fast the LFO goes. It gets quite high into the modulation rate. There's also a particularly low mode, but if I stop that here, what you can see here is I can basically sweep this between ramp up and ramp down with a triangle in the middle. There's also a square wave output that I could use if I wanted to as well. But I have to say the FM mod, if I just wanted to maybe, let's say, get a little bit of vibrato. This is not a logarithmic approach, so it's very linear, so you get quite a lot, again, with this tiny little movements of this knob, which is a shame they didn't make that response slightly differently. But we also got the blend between the LFO and also this random generator, which is getting its clock from the output of the beatstep Pro. So and it's kind of useful because it gives us that random. We can get these, if we get the arpeggiator into play as well, you can clock the arpeggiator off the random generator and get all sorts of interesting and unusual, sort of almost self-generative patches. So the function generator, again, is more of a sort of West Coast kind of vibe. It's this multiple usage where you can use it like an envelope trigger, or you can use it as quite a fast LFO. Combined with the LFO and the random gives us multiple modulation sources and does let you create some quite complex patches. Right, another patch here is using the arpeggiator. The arpeggiator has a few modes which are kind of accessed by button presses. It's a little bit arcane for me, but I've just switched the arpeggiator and I've got the hold on and I've got a note sequence. And I've got the function generator accessing both the binary filter, but also I have it going into the tomba. Now the interesting thing is I can take the random gate from the random generator and I can come out and go into the function generator. And again, I've got the mod wheel affecting the modulation of this. So I'm getting all these interesting actions. Bring a bit of drive in. And that's relatively simple. You can see this is being triggered sort of randomly from the sample and hold in creating all these rhythmic action. That's just with noise. So that is a fairly simple patch, but I've created all these rhythmic possibilities using the random generator to re-trigger the function and create all these interesting accents. So you can get some quite complex stuff, as I said earlier. I think it's a shame that there's not a second oscillator. That would be really helpful, but I guess the problem is, you know, with this much space, there's not really much room to put any of that stuff. A couple of points on the build. Nice to see the patch bay on one side. I think this is a trend that I'd like to see more of, particularly in desktops, because imagine some of the earlier patches trying to access that with all of this nest of cables. It means that you can keep it to the side. And I think once you've sort of trained your brain to remember where everything is, it's great to have the controls themselves available, you know, without being obscured. Speaking of the controls themselves, obviously these faders are a little sort of a bit wibbly, and the knobs as well. I mean, I haven't found any problem with that, but you know, the build quality again is, I think it's really sort of designated by the layout and the design, because obviously with this many controls, if we had nice solid knobs and faders, we'd run out of space. It would be a much bigger unit. So there is a certain compromise there, and I do like the look of it. I love these backlit buttons, and it's nice to see the faders with lights on where you've got the little indicators showing what's going on in terms of triggering. Very useful. So the Microvolt 3900 for Pittsburgh Modular is available in stores. I think it's just coming into stock. They say shipping now at the time of publishing this review. So it costs about 630 US street and about 540 UK pounds. So it's not the most affordable, the cheapest synth, but Pittsburgh Modular make good stuff. They're a small manufacturer. They don't benefit from the massive economies of scale that some other companies do. But this is got a very unique sound to it. I mean, yes, it's perhaps on the face of it a bit limited, but it's got features in there that you're not going to find on a lot of other synthesizers. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. That was the Pittsburgh Modular 3900 Microvolt. I'm just going to play out. I've brought a little bit of additional help in here. I've got my Fulsome Clouds here, which is mutable clouds. That's my custom version that was given to me to commemorate 500 podcasts. So that's it. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.